So we will review quickly and practice sections 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. If you remember section 2.1, it is about what we mean by a function. Y equals f of x means that for each x, there is only one y. The domain is the set of all the x values for which f is defined, all the possible values of x. The range is all the resulting y values, all the corresponding y values. You need also to know from this section mainly what is the difference quotient. In 2.2, we have defined the graph and learned how to sketch the graph. طبعا if you don't know how to sketch the graph, you can use plotting points. It is the formal way to sketch graphs. But we will practice more about the graphs in section 2.6. These are the basic graphs of basic functions that you need to recall, and it will make it easier for you to sketch the graphs if you know them. The vertical line test, it is about graphs of functions. If you have a graph, how to know that it is for a function or not. If no vertical line intersects the curve more than once, then it is a graph of a function. How to get the information from the graph? You can know from the graph what is the domain, what is the range, especially the range. The best way to find the range is to sketch the graph. Yes. We will see today. We will answer this question today. And of course, what you can also know from the graph is about the intervals on which the graph or the function is increasing or decreasing. Let's start with evaluating the functions. This is a recitation question from section 2.1. Please try to evaluate or to find the value of this expression. This is a difference quotient. Again, this is a pre-calculus. This prepare you to find the derivative at A, as you will do in Math 101. Try to solve it in your notes, please. And in your notebook, write the solution and give me your final answer. One question in the second major exam might be about this, how to evaluate the function at these points and combine them to have the difference quotient. Done? I think so. What is this? Excellent. Right. Now, check again. Check a solution. You have two mistakes. Let's see. No, you have sign problem. You forget the negative sign. What is that?
It will be plus H.
No, what you did?
Mm-hmm.
What? Yes, yes, it is. Why you are doing solving this way? Just do it in steps. Find f at a, then f at a plus h, then find the difference, then do the quotient. Yes, now it is correct. You can check it out. Now let me show you. This is the final answer, in the most simpler form, of course. No, you have in the denominator. In the numerator, you don't have it as a fraction. So what you need to do, Shabab, we have solved many examples about this when we studied 2.1. The idea, when you have here, let me give you an idea that I obtained from previous section. One student in the previous section, he did this. He said, why we didn't take f as a common factor? And this will be f of h. What about this? Is that right? What is wrong with this?
That's not an equation. It's not the same.
This is misunderstanding for this notation. What we mean by f of x. This is not a multiplication. We don't have two factors here multiplied by each other. This is just one symbol there. It is one symbol. You cannot separate it or write it as a product here. It is not a product. This is just a symbol or a short way of writing this. F is a function of x. And instead of writing, do you prefer to write this every time? Of course, this is much easier and much better. So this is not, of course, a multiplication to do that. It has special meaning. It is a symbol that means you have a function evaluated at a plus h. So here we have f of whatever equals to what? 1 over that whatever. So this is f of x equals to 1 over x. So here we need to find what? F at a plus h. What is f at a plus h? You will just replace x by a plus h. Also, you have f at a. You will go to the function that you have. You will replace x by a. Then you will do in step number 2 the difference. Then the quotient. So you will have f of a plus h minus f of a. And this will be 1 over a plus h minus 1 over a. Now, when you have 1 over like 3 minus 1 over 2, you will leave it like this, or you will simplify. You will bring them over a common denominator and write them as a single fraction. So this is what you should also do here. Here you will do what? What is the LCD? It is a times a plus h, or a plus h times a. The multiplication is commutative. Now, here you will multiply 1 by a. It will be a minus a plus h, right?
No.
This is not correct. It is a common mistake. Some of you, they forgot the negative sign. You have a multiplication here, so you should write this inside the brackets. It is 1 multiplied by a plus h inside the brackets. Simplify in the next step. This will be equals to what? A minus a, 0, negative h. Don't forget the negative for h, over a plus ah. Now we have simplified this as much as we can. Now we did find the difference. We will find the quotient now. So the difference quotient equals to, you will divide negative h over a times a plus h. You will divide it by what? You will divide it by h, which means that you will multiply it by the reciprocal. By the reciprocal of what? H over 1, the reciprocal, it is 1 over h. Now cancel h with h, you will get negative 1 over a times a plus h, which is the result that we are looking for. Any question? Okay. You can find now easily. Find the difference quotient for this function. It is trivial. Simplify as much as you can. Done? It is trivial. What is f at 1 plus h? What is f at 1? Square root of 1, which is 1. The difference is what? Square root of 1 plus h minus. What is the quotient? Can you simplify more? What? Square what? Is it the same? Is it the same if you square? If you have A over B, is it equals to A squared over B squared? What is that? Now we will stop here. This should be the answer. But don't expect that you will have, for example, if you have a multiple choice, this question, if it is like a multiple choice question, I believe that they will add something to you. They will not just put it like trivial like this one. So maybe you in the choices, you will not find this answer. You may find this one. And you will say, oh, how can I obtain this from this?
Conjugate.
So the answer is up to here, it is correct. And this is what we expect to have. If I ask you this in a written quiz, this is the answer. But if you don't have this in the choices and you have that one instead, in fact, you will just, it is the same, but just multiply by what?
Conjugate.
By the conjugate of what? The numerator. So you will multiply by 1 plus h plus 1, and you will divide by the same quantity. Then you will get what? 1 plus h minus 1 over h multiplied by the square root of 1 plus h plus 1. This will be 1 minus 1, 0. And you will have what? H over h will be cancelled, and you will have 1 over square root of 1 plus h plus 1. Okay. Find the domain of this function in interval notation. Find the domain of this function in interval notation. Please write the solution in your notebook. Let's see who is working on the right way, in the right way. How? Without sources, forget about the sources. How to find the domain? It is a concept now. It is about a concept. Do you know how to find the domain of a function? So focus on this question. What we mean by the domain of a function? What is the domain of a function? Yes. Right. What you should do now, step number 1, what you will do?
Check.
Yes, you are right. You are right. This is correct. Okay, do something. What you will do? Right. Correct. How? No, you should know how. I'm not interested in the answer, Ashaba. I'm interested in the method. I want you to know how to find the domain of any function. How to do that? Initially, the domain is what? Initially, the domain is all the real numbers. Okay? Just we need to pay special attention to what? To the denominators to not be 0. If we have denominator, we will say the denominator shouldn't be 0, and we will solve the equation and see what are the zeros of the denominator. Secondly, we will do what? We will pay also special attention for the what? For the even radicals, for the square root, the fourth root, the sixth root. What is inside the root must be non-negative. Positive if it makes the denominator 0. So what we will do here, this question, by the way, Shabab, it is a question from 2.1, but it also depends on 1.8 and 1.7. So the answer is E. But indeed, to solve such question, ask yourself, what do you have? You have square root here. So the domain is about all the possible values of x that make the function defined, where the function exists. So it is about x. You will think about x values. So we have a denominator here. So the domain of this function, will be what? All the values of x, such that what is inside the root is greater than or equal. Before you write or equal, ask yourself, is there any problem if what is inside is 0? It will be a problem if it makes the denominator 0. We don't have denominators here, so it's okay. What about if I root the square root?
No, we are.
This is why. This is the function. You are talking about the function, the whole function. So this is a fact. You are not doing here anything. It is always greater than 0 if what is inside is greater than 0. So this is the condition. And the square root will follow. If this is greater than 0, the square root will be greater than 0. And it is always greater than or equal 0. Now, 2.1 is done. This question is from which section now? It is an inequality with absolute value. So it is an absolute value inequality. You need to solve it to know where is x. So what we will do now? It will be negative x minus 1 greater than or equals what? Negative 3. Multiply both sides by what? By negative 1. So it will be what? Less than 3. Again, this is 1.8 from the properties of the absolute value. This means that what? X minus 1 is less than 3 and greater than negative 3. This is also 1.7. Section 1.7 inequality. What you will do, you will add x for these 3 sides and you will find it like that. So this is what I mean by how to find the domain. Don't tell me, oh, the answer is E. I know. How you know it? Are you a mathematician or a magician? You should do it in steps, and you should be able at the beginning to know what we mean by the domain, how to find the domain of any function, with the choices, without. Okay, now any question Shabab related to the domain, please, before we go to the range. So the domain is about what? The inputs, the values of x. The range is about the outputs, the values of what? Of y. So it is about y. You will think about y here. Where is y? Y is less than what? Greater than what? Between what and what? Equals to what? Please think about these 5 functions and find the range of them. We will take the attendance during that. So let's see now. Again, the first question is what? What is the range? It is all the corresponding y values. So if you take all the x values in the domain and you evaluate the function at them, what will be the outputs? What will be the y values? So it is better to replace here, for example, for the first one, it is better to say y equal x squared plus 1. Now you will look for what? For y. You will ask yourself, what is y? Where is y? What is y? Y is this one, right? Now, again, let me emphasize on this. The best way to find the range is to sketch the graph. The problem that we are still here in these are recitation questions of what? Section 2.1. So we expect that the student at this section is not able to sketch the graphs in a 100% sure way. Let's say that. Of course, you can sketch the graph by plotting points. We will practice more on that in section 2.6 next week, inshallah. We will learn there how to sketch the graph of any function. Let's see. So if you can sketch the graph, sketch the graph. Why not? So who can sketch the graph of this function, Shabab? The graph of this function is the same as the graph of x squared, but shifted up 1 unit. So the graph of x squared is like this. This one will be at this point. It will start at 1. So this is the graph of y equal x squared plus 1. But I don't expect from you to do that now in section 2.1. We will do that together in section 2.6. Now, what we can do here to solve. You should start building your function. You will start from the domain and you will see what will happen. What is the domain of this function? All the real numbers. So x is a real number because here a polynomial, the domain of any polynomial is all the real numbers. Now, what we have here, we have x what? So when you square any real number, what you will get? you will get a non-negative number. It will be greater than or equal 0. Now we will add what? 1 for both sides. We are building our function. Now what we have here in the left hand side, this is y. This is the function. So y is greater than or equals what?
1.
So this means that the range of this function is from negative infinity up to 1 closed. Right? It is from 1 greater than, from 1 to infinity. Greater than 1. Y is greater than 1. And it was clear from here, if you look at the graph, that y is starting from 1 up to where? Up to infinity. Okay. Now, what about this function? What is it?
I put it negative infinity into 2.
From negative infinity to 2. Do you agree with Abdurrahman? From 0 to infinity. From negative infinity to 0. What do you think? Which one is the right one? We have three different answers so far. Check your answer. This is the right answer. From negative infinity to 0. Okay. Now, do you know how to sketch the graph of this function? If you don't, we will learn how to do that next week. By the end of the next week, you have to sketch the graph of functions like this. You should know. Don't worry, you don't know so far. We will learn that next week. So how can we solve it without sketching the graph? What we will do, we will start from the domain. Of course, ya shabab, the domain here is x plus 2 greater than or equal 0. Is that right?
Negative.
No, I'm talking about the domain now. What is inside is greater than or equal 0, of course. What will happen if you square both sides? You will have square root of x plus 2 greater than 0. Multiply both sides by negative. Is that right? We should reverse. So this will be less than or equal what? 0. Now what is this? This is y. We have here y equals to negative square root of x plus 2. So we have here y less than or equal what? 0. So what is the range? From negative infinity to what? To 2 closed. Right? You said that. To 0, why 2? Or negative 2. So from negative infinity to 0. If you sketch the graph, for those who are interested in the graph from right now, again, we can delay that to section 2.6. In fact, you need here to sketch the graph of this function. You need to sketch the graph of many functions. You will start with the square root of x. Here it is. Then you will shift it to the left. Don't worry. You will learn how to do that next week. It will be like this. It will be shifted to negative 2. Then it will be reflected in the x axis. So it will be what? Like this. Here we are. This is just an introduction for 2.6 from now. If you don't know how to do that right now, you will be able to do it next week. Let's move to another function. Find the range of this function. What is the range?
1. Obvious.
So the range here is kind of strange. It is only 1. For whatever x is, for all x belongs to R, for any real number, y equals to what? 1. So what, if you remember the graph of this function, it is a constant. This is constant function. Constant function, its graph is what? Is a horizontal line. Y equals to 3. For any x, y is 1. So how to write the range? A singleton. It is a single point. It is just a set of single points. 1 inside 2 set braces.
No, I have to write the basis, right?
Because as a set, the range is a set of numbers. So if you write 1 is a value, so now you mean that it is a set. This is the set of all the possible values, the corresponding values of y. The range of this function, Shabab, please try to find the range. Try to find. If you didn't, give them some time to find the range. Find the range of this function, please. And let me see. I need the people there to try to solve. Don't be afraid from doing mistakes. You will learn from your mistakes. Try. Don't give up. Start from something that you know to find what you don't know.
Finding.
What you did?
Untitled.
What is y? And what is that? What you will do if you did that? Then what? No, this is not a way. We didn't do that in the previous. Remember what we did in the previous ones. How? I'm interested on how.
Okay.
What you write there at the beginning is not true. Who said that? Who said that this should be greater than or equal 0? You are talking about y.
Yes.
You already say y greater than or equal 0. Who said that? Is this y? This is y.
Yes.
So you say y greater than or equal 0. Why?
Okay.
Why you say that? It is not true.
Oh, you finished.
Let me see. So you sketch the graph. Good. So you know about 2.6 already. How? What is it? No. I need to see a solution. What you will do, Shabab, if I give you this as a question in the quiz, what will be the steps? What you will do to get the grade?
Sometime.
Good. Excellent. Again, ya Shabab, you can sketch the graph if you can, of course, and you are sure about it. Why not? It is the best way. But I assume that we are in section 2.1 now. We didn't study section 2.6. So let's see how to, let's check first the answer. What is the answer? From negative infinity to negative 3 close. Okay. Indeed, let's delay talking about the graph. Now, what is the domain of this function? So this is y. This is y equals. Now, x is any real number here because x, of course, the domain is of this function is all the real numbers. Now, what I will do again, I will build my function. So if you have x belongs to R, what will be the absolute value of x minus 3? This one. It will be always greater than or equal 0. These are from the properties, Abdulaziz, of the absolute values. Now, what we have here, this absolute value is multiplied by what? By negative. So I will multiply both sides by what? By negative. So it will be less than 0, right? Then I will add what? Negative 3 for both sides. So this will be less than or equals what? Negative 3. What is this? This is y. So I build my function now. So y is what? Less than or equals 3. This means that the range of this function is from negative infinity to negative 3 closed. Right? Now, if you want to sketch the graph, and this is for people, I have noticed there are many students sketch the graph. For those who cannot sketch the graph of this function, don't worry. We will study that next week. So what you will do, you will start with this function, with the absolute value, y equals to the absolute value of x. Then you will shift it to the right. It will be at 3. The corner will be here at 3. Then you will reflect. So this will be y equals the absolute value of x plus 3, minus 3. Then you will reflect it because it is multiplied. You will sketch the graph of negative the absolute value of x minus 3. It will be reflected in the x-axis. Next, the last step will be what? You will shift it down by 3 units. So it will be at negative 3, the corner, the point will be like this. And this is the graph. And you can see clearly that this is, of course, a function. And don't tell me that you can find the range in one step and just you will write the final answer. This will not be accepted from you. You should show me how you obtain it. Either you will do this or this. Okay? Yes,
Can I sketch the graph by blocking point?
you can, but you will not be 100% sure about it. You need many points to be sure about it. We will see that, of course, you don't need to plot points to use plotting points if you know the basic function. So you will start from the basic function and find just the function that you want by considering the transformations of functions. What is the range of this one? Why? This is a linear function. By the way, section 2.5, next class is about 2.5. They are so easy functions to be sketch the graph or find the range, the domain. You know, when we have a linear function with the coefficient of x is not 0, it is either with positive slope or with negative slope. And in the range will be what? From negative infinity to infinity, unless he make it bounded, of course. If he said, for example, here x is between 1 and 2, what will be the range? In this case, you have to consider the domain. Okay, if he restrict the domain, the range, if the domain is bounded, you have to consider that and see what will be the range. So the range for this one is all the real numbers. If you sketch the graph, when x is 0, you will get what? -5. When x is, for example, -5, it will be what? 0. Here's here. This is your line, the graph of this function. Now find the range of this function, please. This is an old exam question from the final exam of term 141. Find the range of this function. X greater than 0? Who said that x is greater than 0? Aha, now you are working. Excellent.
إجابة دي
خلاص. Good. All of you are working on the same idea.
I found, but sketch the graph.
Mhm.
So be enemy?
No.
No.
This is why I said don't sketch the graph if you are not sure about it. You need to know how to sketch the graph. By the way, I have, let me write down here what most of you did. And it is natural to start like that if you don't want to sketch the graph. This is an example. This exercise, by the way, it is not from 2.1. It is from 2.3 or 2.2. I don't remember exactly. But let me try to apply what we did in the previous exercises. So you will try to build your function. You know that the absolute value of x is greater than or equal what? This is a fact. Multiplied by negative. This is exactly what you did. I have noticed that most of you, they did this. This will be less than or equal what? X. Then add what? Add 1, so it will be 1 plus x, right? So we add 1 plus x for both sides. So what is this? This is y. So y is less than 1 plus what? Good try, but we cannot conclude anything from here. What we conclude that the graph of this function is bounded by the graph of the line 1 plus x. So this means that all the values of this function are less than the line y 1 plus x. If we don't have x here, it's okay. But here we still have a variable. So it means that 1 plus x minus the absolute value of x is less than 1 plus x. And this is true. So here the algebraic building is not working. What we should do in this case? Sketch the graph. And we as I said, yeah, Shabab, the best way is to sketch the graph. Now, the question is how to sketch the graph. You can use plotting points, but what is the best way to sketch the graph here? What is it? What is the best way to sketch the graph of this function? I need to hear a specific word, ya Shabab. How to sketch the graph of this function? Plotting points, we said that, but there is a better way. Yes, write it as a piecewise defined function. Again, ya Shabab, it is, you know what is the absolute value of x. It is either x or negative x. It is x if x is greater than or equal 0. It is negative x if x is less than 0. So what we will do here, it will be 1 plus x minus x if x is what? Greater than or equal 0. And it is x, 1 plus x minus x if x is what? Negative. Now simplify this. Negative by negative, it will be positive. So it will be plus x. And we have in the next step, simplify 1 plus x minus x, it will be 1. And here we will have 2x plus 1. This is if x is non-negative. This is if x is negative. Now, this is indeed a piecewise defined function. Easy to be sketched now. You remember how to sketch the graph of piecewise defined functions? This is x, this is y. Focus, Abdul Aziz, now to know how to sketch the graph. Now, the branch point is what? 0. The branching point is 0. So focus on 0. What will happen at 0 when you put here in the first branch? 1. So this is 1. And what will happen if x is less than 0? Both x is 0 equals here. It is 1 again. So we are lucky it will be connected from both sides. Anyway, let's focus now on greater than 1. Greater than 0. If x is greater than or equal 0. If it is 0, it is 1. If it is greater than 0, like what?
Always 1.
It will be also a constant function. So it will be always what? 1. So the graph will be a horizontal line. So this is y equals to 1. Now, go to the left now. When x is less than 0. When x is 0, we have also 1. So we have this point. When x is less than 0, like negative 1, for instance. When it is negative 1, what you will get? So y will be negative 1. So at negative 1, it will be, we have the point negative 1 and negative 1. Here it is. Connect these 2 points, and you have this line. Now, this is the graph of your function. Look at the range. What is the range? The values of y?
Negative infinity.
From negative, the range of this function is from negative infinity up to 1 closed. Right? This is the answer. What we learned from, what is the lesson that we learned from this quotient? If you have absolute value, consider it as a piecewise defined function and sketch the graph. If you cannot, of course, build the function. If you can build the function and obtain y without the graph, it's okay. But of course, the graph will make it more clear for you. But you have to sketch the graph in the right way, not like what Abdulaziz did. He sketched it as a line and he chose C.
Because plotting point, I need more than 3 points.
Okay. Plotting points, you will not be 100% sure. You need many points to be sure. Now you have here piecewise. No, it is piecewise, but it is a greatest integer function. Find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. The y-intercept is easy. What you will do? You will get x equals to what? To 0. So what it will be? The greatest integer of negative 2 will be what? Negative 2. Here it is. Now, how to find the x-intercept? X-intercept means that y is what? 0. What is y? Y is the greatest integer of 3x minus 2 equals to 0. So when you have a greatest integer of something greater equals to 0, this means what? 3x minus 2 is what? Greater than or equal 0, less than? You have an inequality, solve it. You will get this answer. Okay. Now, what is, okay, this is a good question. But the same idea. The graph of this function lies above the x-axis in which interval? Please try to solve it. The graph of this function is above the x-axis in which interval of these? Try to solve it. And show me how you will solve it. We still have 2 minutes. 1 minute for you and 1 minute for me to solve it. A, B, C, D, or E? What did you get? Who can give me a hint how to start? Yes. So what is the meaning of above the x-axis? Above the x-axis. There is a missing the, by the way, here. I told you that it is like the moon and the sun. It is the x-axis. Above the x-axis means that y is strictly greater than 0. Strictly, not even equals. Okay? So this means that the greatest integer of 1 minus a half of x is greater than 0. So when the greatest integer of something greater than 0? Again, let me ask you this question. What is the greatest integer of what greater than 0? This means that this star is what? What are the numbers that their greatest integer greater than 0? They should start from where? From 1. If they are less than 1, between 1 and 0, the greatest integer will be. So here we have 1 minus a half of x greater than or equals 1. That's it. Now you have an inequality, solve it. Do you realize, ya shabab, that how much the sections 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 related to sections 1.7 and 1.8? This is why we need to have them together in next quiz. Now, what we did, we multiply both sides by what? By 2. So it will be 2 minus x greater than or equal to. Negative x will be greater than or equals what? 0. Is that right? And this will be, of course, x less than or equal 0. Is that right?
Yes.
So the answer is B. Okay, thank you and see you inshallah next Sunday.